morning, you're watching A News. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the top stories for the hour. India launches strikes on Pakistan in Operation Sindoor, while Islamabad vows a response. Tensions flared as US President Donald Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney met for the first time in Washington. Conclave is to elect a new pope, and it begins in the Vatican today. Voting will continue until a new pope is elected via a two-thirds majority. Multiple explosions were heard across several regions in Pakistan and Pakistani-administered Kashmir early on Wednesday, following what India described as a series of targeted military strikes. At least 19 people were killed, including a child, and 35 others injured, according to Pakistani officials. India says Pakistani army's shelling kills at least 3.
The early hours of May 7th began with reports of loud explosions in multiple parts of Pakistan, including Muzaffarabad, the capital of Pakistani-administered Kashmir. Witnesses reported a complete blackout in parts of the city following the blasts. As a result, at least 4 mosques and a medical clinic damaged, authorities says. India says the operation, dubbed Operation Sindoor, was launched in response to last month's deadly attack on Hindu tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir, which killed 26 civilians on its ex-post. It described the strikes as a measured and non-escalatory military operation. India emphasized that no Pakistani military installations were targeted, stating its actions demonstrated considerable restraint. Pakistan condemned the strikes, describing them as a violation of its sovereignty. Officials stated that Indian missiles hit multiple locations and claimed that 5 Indian aircraft were shot down, although this has not been independently verified.
So we are giving our armed forces, the ground forces, the air force are giving all the necessary responses to defend the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Pakistan. And so far, I can confirm you that 5 Indian aircrafts, including 3 Rafale, 1 Su-30 and 1 MiG-29 have been shot down, and 1 Heron drone has also been shot down. The information that I have so far with me now, this is near Bhatinda in India, in Akhnur, and there are other locations also. As the information keeps on coming, I'll keep on updating.
The regional tension quickly spilled into civilian airspace. Flights to and from India were rerouted to avoid Pakistani airspace, as shown by real-time tracking data. Several airports in both countries were temporarily shut down as a precaution. This confrontation marks one of the most serious escalations since the 2003 ceasefire agreement, which was reaffirmed in 2021. While limited clashes have occurred over the years, targeted strikes deep into Pakistani territory, especially in regions beyond the contested Kashmir zone, remain rare.
As fears of wider conflict grow, global leaders are urging both nuclear-armed nations to show restraint and return to dialogue.
The operation, named Sindoor by India, sparked a sharp reaction from Islamabad, which confirmed 19 deaths and said it is now responding to what it called unprovoked aggression. The international response was swift, with world leaders expressing growing alarm over the escalating tensions. US President Donald Trump called the situation a shame, noting that the long-standing rivalry between India and Pakistan has once again reached a dangerous point. They've been fighting for many, many decades, he said, adding, "I hope it ends very quickly." Echoing the president's remarks, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he is monitoring the situation closely and reaffirmed Washington's commitment to engaging both sides in search of a peaceful resolution. The United Nations also voiced deep concern. The spokesperson for Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Stefan Dujarric, described the Indian military operations as deeply troubling. He urged both countries to exercise maximum military restraint, warning that the world cannot afford a military confrontation between India and Pakistan. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi strongly condemned the initial terrorist attack in Kashmir and expressed concern that this situation may lead to further retaliatory exchanges and escalate into a full-scale military conflict. He urged both countries to stabilise the situation through dialogue. The United Arab Emirates also called for de-escalation. Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed said, "We must avoid further escalation that could threaten regional and international peace," emphasising the need for diplomacy as the only path forward.
A deadly night in Kiev where falling debris from destroyed drones sparked fires across several neighbourhoods. Ukraine's emergency services say 2 people were killed and 8 others, including 4 children, were injured. The drone attack came just hours after a missile barrage targeted the city, intensifying the pressure on Ukraine's capital. Meanwhile, Russia reported intercepting swarms of drones approaching Moscow, adding to the growing cycle of cross-border strikes. The Kremlin confirmed that Russian forces will observe a ceasefire in Ukraine from the 8th till the 10th of May, as ordered by President Vladimir Putin to mark the 80th anniversary of World War II victory. The truce coincides with Victory Day celebrations in Moscow, where world leaders including China's Xi Jinping are expected. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russia will uphold the ceasefire but will respond immediately if Ukrainian forces attack. In the meantime, President Zelensky has rejected the 3-day pause, insisting on a minimum 30-day ceasefire, something Putin said would require more work. In a rare moment of cooperation, Russia and Ukraine have carried out a 1-for-1 prisoner exchange. Each side repatriated 205 servicemen in a deal mediated by the United Arab Emirates. Russia's defense ministry says its soldiers released from Ukrainian-controlled territory are currently in Belarus. Officials say they're receiving medical and psychological support and will soon be transferred to military hospitals inside Russia for further treatment and rehabilitation. This marks one of the largest known exchanges between the two countries in recent months. Tensions flared as US President Donald Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney met for the first time in Washington. The two leaders faced deep divisions over tariffs and future trade ties, with Trump even floating the idea of Canada becoming part of the United States, a notion Carney swiftly dismissed.
And we'll see what happens.
US President Donald Trump began his first talks with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on Tuesday. During the meeting, Trump acknowledged there are tough points dividing the two countries since he imposed tariffs. One of those points is Trump's belief that Canada should become the 51st US state.
I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other. We'll have to be able to.
As an answer, in the Oval Office, Carney put down the idea firmly: Canada is not for sale.
This was
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the president just said, is with respect to our own security.
Carney's Liberal Party won the April 28th election on promises to resist Trump's tariffs and to create a new bilateral economic and security relationship with the United States. After their meeting in Washington, Prime Minister Carney said that no decisions were made on tariffs.
We're having a very complex negotiation about a wide range of issues, and it's, as I said before I came here, I wouldn't have expected white smoke coming out of this meeting. That was not my expectation, because of the nature of the negotiation. So you don't expect to have specific progress as things move along, even when you're making progress, because it's that's why it's a global negotiation.
President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that he and top administration officials will review potential trade deals over the next 2 weeks to decide which ones to accept. During bilateral meeting with Canadian Prime Minister, US President emphasized that negotiations over the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement may be renegotiated.
The European Union says it will not accept an unfair trade deal with the United States as tensions rise over long-standing tariffs. The bloc is facing steep tariffs on steel, aluminium and cars, a holdover from the Trump administration. The 90-day pause on new US tariffs runs out on the 8th of July, and the EU is using that window to prepare countermeasures. Those could include rebalancing tariffs on a wide range of American goods. While Brussels still prefers a negotiated outcome, progress has been limited and all options remain on the table.
But if our talks with the US do not yield the necessary result, we will be ready for alternative, with the aim of restoring a level playing field. Therefore, we are also using the 90-day pause to continue our preparation for further rebalancing measures to counter the multitude of additional US tariffs on EU exports and ensure a level playing field in the longer term. And here I would like to underline that all options remain on the table.
The UK and India have finalised a long-awaited free trade agreement after 3 years of stop-start negotiations. The deal reduces tariffs on key goods such as whiskey, food items and advanced manufacturing parts. It also includes quotas for vehicle imports and opens more opportunities for British firms in India's public procurement market. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has described the deal as a historic milestone for both countries. The agreement is expected to boost bilateral trade by $34 billion by 2040. Germany has a new chancellor. Olaf Scholz officially handed over power to Friedrich Merz in a short ceremony at the Chancellery in Berlin.
In a formal but emotional handover at the Berlin Chancellery, Olaf Scholz passed the baton to newly elected Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The ceremony came just hours after Merz secured enough votes in the second round of parliamentary voting to officially take office.
I am very aware of the responsibility that this office entails. I accept this responsibility with humility, but also with determination and confidence, ladies and gentlemen.
Merz had failed to win a majority in the initial round earlier that day, a first in post-war Germany. Despite his coalition with the Social Democrats holding 328 seats, he received only 310 votes, 6 short. But a second round turned the tide. Merz gained 325 votes, enough to calm political nerves and ease market jitters. Germany's DAX index trimmed losses and recovered slightly by mid-afternoon.
You can get straight down to business, just as the citizens of our country expect, just as these turbulent times demand. I wish you and your entire team every success, much strength and all the best. And thank you all very much.
Later that evening, Merz held his first cabinet meeting with his new ministers. From diplomacy to the economy, expectations are high as Friedrich Merz begins his term as Germany's 10th post-war chancellor.
The Sistine Chapel in the Vatican is once again at the heart of Catholic tradition, as 133 cardinals gather to elect the next pope.
The 133 cardinal electors will begin the process of choosing the new pope when the conclave begins in the Sistine Chapel on Wednesday in the Vatican City, as they will cast their first vote. On the morning of May 7, a special Mass pro Eligendo Romano Pontifex takes place in St. Petersburg Basilica, invoking the Holy Spirit's guidance for the cardinals in choosing the next Catholic Church leader. Later, the electors will pray the Litany of the Saints in the Pauline Chapel before processing into the Sistine Chapel to formally begin the conclave. Inside the chapel, the cardinals will take a solemn oath to maintain secrecy, to avoid any external influence and to accept the office of the papacy if elected faithfully. The traditional extra omnes command will be given, ordering all non-participants to leave. Cardinal Raniero Cantalamessa, preacher emeritus of the papal household, will give a final spiritual reflection before departing with the master of liturgical ceremonies. Voting will start with 1 ballot that evening, followed by up to 4 daily, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, until a new pope secures a 2/3 majority. Ballots are burned after each vote, and the world will watch the Sistine Chapel's chimney for the signal, black smoke for no decision, white smoke to announce the election of a new pope.
In Athens, Armenian Defence Minister Suran Papikyan met with his Greek counterpart Nikos Denvias to discuss deepening military cooperation. The talks focused on expanding ties in defence, education, joint training and experience sharing across key military areas. Both sides expressed satisfaction with the current level of cooperation and pledged to strengthen it further. As part of his working visit to Greece, Papikyan attended the opening of the International Defence Exhibition, DEFIA 2025. He also visited Armenia's National Pavilion and met with defence industry representatives. Earlier, our journalists analysed the defence policy shift of Armenia. Let's take another look to see what consequences this defence policy recalibration may have for Armenia.
Armenia's military cooperation with the European Union and the United States has seen a significant boost from early 2025, reflecting a strategic shift in the nation's security and defence approach. A major step towards closer ties with Europe occurred on the 24th of March, when the Armenian Parliament's Standing Committee on European Integration debated a bill officially launching the country's EU accession process. The proposed legislation notably features a new dedicated chapter on defence and security issues. Deputy Foreign Minister Parur Hovhannisyan, recently appointed Armenia's permanent representative to the UN, highlighted the EU's growing role in Armenia's security strategy, stating, "The EU is becoming a crucial partner for Armenia in the security domain. We have initiated political and security dialogues with 2 sessions already held." Hovhannisyan also revealed an imminent defence cooperation programme with the EU, utilising resources from the European Peace Facility. Further strengthening the EU-Armenia security partnership, a European Parliament resolution from March 2024 urged closer defence cooperation and greater support via the European Peace Facility. Reflecting this deeper commitment, Armenia appointed its first military attaché to Brussels in early March this year, marking a significant step toward closer defence collaboration. High-level visits also underline Armenia's strategic pivot. Security Council Secretary Armen Grigorian visited Brussels in April 2025 for discussions on enhanced defence ties, accompanied by senior aides. Earlier, Defence Minister Suran Papikyan visited Germany in February 2025, engaging directly with Belgian Defence Minister Theo Franken, signalling intensified cooperation. Armenia's collaboration with the United States has similarly strengthened. Prominent Armenian political analyst Hovsep Kurshudyan highlighted this development in an interview, stating, "American military units have been deployed from Germany to Armenia for joint training exercises and will remain until August. Even a limited American presence provides a significant security cushion." This view was echoed on social media by Armenian European Party leader Tigran Kazmalyan, who on 22nd March shared a photo with 3 US generals, General Fink, General Makali, and General Dorman, on his Facebook page, highlighting their discussions on strengthening military cooperation. High-level US visits have further cemented these ties. Brigadier General Michael Venerdi from Kansas visited Armenia this January, reinforcing cooperation under the Kansas-Armenia Partnership Program. Additionally, Armenian Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Edvard Asrian held talks at the Munich Security Conference on 14 February 2025 with General Christopher Cavoli, commander of US European Command, focusing on deepening bilateral defense collaboration. Armenia is also actively building military partnerships with individual EU member states. Early 2025 witnessed extensive interactions with Greece, including a visit by General Major Artur Yeroyan on 3rd January and follow-up discussions led by Lieutenant General Edvard Asrian on 27th February. These meetings reaffirmed Greece's support for military reform in Armenia. Further European engagement included discussions with Dutch representatives in March 2025, referencing a prior agreement from the February Munich meeting, and defense cooperation agreements with Lithuania signed on the 14th of March. While clearly moving towards stronger Western partnerships, Armenia faces significant geopolitical challenges, particularly given its ongoing economic and energy reliance on Russia. This complexity necessitates a cautious yet determined approach to deepening ties with its new allies, navigating through existing geopolitical realities.
Kazakhstan and Vietnam have elevated their ties, with Kazakhstan now officially recognized as Vietnam's first strategic partner in Central Asia. The move was marked by a high-level visit to Astana. Our reporter Fariza Kalimurzina has more.
Kazakhstan has officially become Vietnam's first strategic partner in Central Asia, marked by a state visit from To Lam, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam. President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev welcomed Lam with an official ceremony at Akorda, where the two leaders discussed strengthening bilateral cooperation. Following the talks, a joint statement was issued affirming their commitment to closer ties. 8 agreements were signed across sectors, including technology, digital transformation, culture, sports, and justice. A key deal focused on joint geological exploration and hydrocarbon development. Trade was a major topic, with 2024 volumes reaching $860 million. Both nations aim to increase this to $2 billion by 2030, with expected growth in oil and gas, energy, agriculture, tourism, and high-tech industries. Vietnamese firm Savico Group announced it plans to acquire or operate a Kazakh airport following its recent purchase of Kazakh Air. For Vietnam, Kazakhstan serves as a gateway to Central Asia. For Kazakhstan, Vietnam offers direct access to Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Analysts say Lam's visit signals Vietnam's expanding regional influence. His recent trips have included China, the US, and Malaysia. From Almaty, Kazakhstan, Fariza Kalimurzina, A News.
Afghanistan has announced a major push to boost its domestic electricity production, with hundreds of megawatts of new energy projects set to transform the country's power supply. Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
The Economic Affairs Office of the Prime Minister has unveiled a new wave of energy infrastructure projects. The developments, spread across multiple provinces, aim to generate a total of 261 megawatts of electricity, with an estimated investment of $340 million. At the same time, the Afghanistan Breshna Shirkat, the national electricity company, is preparing to open public tenders for a new wave of electricity projects. These will cover electricity production, transmission, and distribution in up to 80 districts across the country. The company says the aim is to extend electricity access to underserved areas and is encouraging both national and international investors to take part in the effort. The private sector is expected to play a key role in supporting these developments. Afghanistan currently needs between 2,500 and 3,000 megawatts of electricity. However, only about a quarter of that is generated domestically. The remaining 75% is imported from neighboring countries such as Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Iran. with over 900 megawatts of new projects under design in recent years. These announcements signal a stronger push toward reducing dependence on foreign electricity and improving energy access nationwide. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
In our recent episode of the Context talk show, Orkan Amashov explored the complexity of Turkish-Israeli relations, focusing on the shared interests that Turkey and Israel might have in the Middle East. Mehmet Ötcü, a former Turkish diplomat, and Ken van Lerland, a former Mossad officer, shared their insights on a key issue of how cooperation between the two countries could be influenced by their respective positions on the Iranian regime.
I have no doubt that also with the eventual collapse of the Mullah regime in Iran or military intervention, if it happens one day, there is a requirement that both Tel Aviv and Ankara should work together, because now, thanks to Israel, the region has been somehow cleared of Iranian cronies, Iranian proxies in the region, be Hamas or Hezbollah or Houthis in Yemen. And most of the Arab nations are quite happy about this. We haven't seen much reaction coming from them. But nothing can condone what Israel has done in terms of humanitarian disaster it generated in the region. However, I'm talking only about the real geopolitics. Realpolitik requires that Ankara and Tel Aviv need to work. Otherwise, the region will remain in great turmoil. I think there has to be a great bargain between Ankara and Tel Aviv. Israel should stop meddling so much on the Kurdish issue, be in northern Iraq or in Syria with PYD. And Turkey, I think, should be very sensitive to Israeli security concerns, especially with regard to Hamas. And then I think we might find a common ground to work together, because it cannot continue like this.
Well, I think that, I follow the aberrations of my friend, and I fully agree that Israel and Turkey will find a common ground in fighting each other. There is a mutual interest to stabilize the Middle East. And this not only for the Turks and the Israelis, but also for Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the more moderate Arab countries to take out the Iranian proxies. Israel is doing a great job in destroying Hezbollah and Hamas. You know, it has been absolutely silent over the last 19 months that no Arab country has rebelled against the Israeli actions in Lebanon and in Gaza. And even today, the Israelis are active in Syria to protect the Druze, but not only to protect the Druze, but also to protect Jordan, because 75% of the inhabitants of Jordan are Palestinians, and 90% of them support Hamas. So you can imagine that the King Hussein in Jordan is rather nervous about the whole situation.
Tourism leaders from across the D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation have wrapped up a high-level gathering in Cairo, marking a major step forward in strengthening collaboration across member nations.
Tourism leaders from across the D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation convened in Cairo on Tuesday for the 4th Ministerial Meeting on Tourism. Hosted by Egypt, the high-profile gathering concluded with the official presentation and adoption of the Cairo Declaration. The D8 organization, which includes 9 countries, Azerbaijan, Bangladesh, Egypt, Indonesia, Iran, Malaysia, Nigeria, Pakistan and Turkey, continues to position itself as a dynamic force in the global tourism sector, emphasizing economic and cultural integration. Delegates in Cairo reaffirmed the shared vision of tourism as a cultural engine for socio-economic growth. Building on the outcomes of the 2023 summit held in Durban, Pakistan, the ministers focused on enhancing tourism infrastructure, supporting small and medium enterprises, and forging stronger public-private partnerships. One of the key highlights of the newly adopted Cairo Declaration is its emphasis on artificial intelligence. Recognizing AI as a transformative tool for tourism and heritage preservation, the document calls on member states to responsibly incorporate AI technologies into national strategies, share expertise, and maintain robust governance standards. The declaration also proposes joint cultural initiatives, the production of tourism-focused documentaries, and the creation of a digital platform to promote traditional crafts and locally made products. These steps aim to amplify the visibility and appeal of D8 destinations globally. To enhance cross-border travel, member countries agreed on the importance of facilitating visa procedures while respecting national regulations. And in a celebratory move, Turkey's coastal gem Antalya was named the first ever D8 Tourism City of the Year for 2025, recognizing its excellence in hospitality and sustainable tourism practices. Looking ahead, the Cairo Declaration commits D8 members to annual ministerial and expert-level meetings to track progress and shape future strategies. In a key follow-up move, Iran will host the first D8 Tourism Investment and Promotion Forum in 2026, as mandated by the declaration.
That's the world news for the hour. Stay with us on A News for more updates throughout the day.